Star Wars Eclipse, developer Quantic Dream's upcoming Star Wars game, is years away from being released. In fact, they haven't even begun capturing for it. But here on Sacred Symbols, we can give you some details on what the game may be about. Eclipse is being co-written by David Cage and Adam Williams. Cage is, of course, the co-founder of Quantic Dream and along its creative lead. Adam Williams co-wrote Quantic Dream's final PlayStation published game, Detroit Become Human, which launched in 2018. Eclipse will be produced by Quantic Dream's co-founder and longtime producer, Guillaume de Fondamere. I can never say that name. So now for the game. Materials seen by this podcast describe a so-called Project S with a character named Sarah as the lead. Sarah is described as an athletic 30-something and is a member of a human-like race. This race is at the lead of some sort of empire called the Zaran. That's Zaraan, a race not seen in Star Wars before. It prides itself on political and military aggression, and similar to what you find elsewhere in Star Wars, there is little differentiation between males and females when it comes to roles and responsibilities, but there's an interesting wrinkle with them. When Zaran marry, their nuptials carry military implications as they become one governing unit that works together. So if they're like an officer, they become one officer. And this is a problem because Sarah, a fanatical true believer in the violence and criminality regularly demonstrated by her empire, is married to a character named Zendo, who is a far softer touch. Part of the game seems to revolve around these two characters and their relationship. Will Sarah embrace their so-called imperial ways or succumb to her husband's pleas for moderation? Quantic Dream, founded in the 90s and owned these days by Chinese corporation NetEase, has developed 5 games up until now, 3 of them 2010's Heavy Rain, 2013's Beyond Two Souls, and 2018's Detroit Become Human, Sony-funded PlayStation second-party games. Eclipse will be published by Lucasfilm Games and is one of an enormous amount of Star Wars games in development across the industry. This is purported to be far darker than normal Star Wars, and we know it takes place at a different time than a lot of the Star Wars that we've seen. And so that was actually one of the things I wanted to clarify was when I'm talking about Empire, I'm not talking about the Imperial Empire with the Emperor and all of that. I'm talking about a different empire. So Sarah, Sarah, Zendo, Xendo, Zaran, their race is Zaraan. And yeah, that's what it seems to be about, at least in part. We know that Quantic Dream games come in these little verticals, so there's going to be tension between multiple parts of the game, and I assume that this will be one of them. Like some of the characters you meet, then you go on to another thing, then you go on to another thing, then you come back to them, and so on. That's what my assumption is, but I thought I'd give you a little bit of insight into what Star Wars Eclipse is apparently going to be about, according to a very trusted source.
I would just say that I'm glad that this is outside of the traditional small galaxy syndrome of Star Wars. Seeing an entire new race, new characters, stuff like that, all much more appealing to my interests.
Yeah, I agree. Chris, does this sound attractive to you? Should this come to fruition in the final game?
I mean, it would be cool to see something out of a Star Wars game that isn't just something that isn't just Jedi fuel, you know, like the small galaxy syndrome is a good way to put it, where one of the most annoying things about Star Wars to me is just how inescapable the original trilogy and those original characters have become to every bit of future exploration of the universe, like even like especially film wise is really, really terrible with that. And the modern TV shows are kind of have that same problem too. They had like a whole CGI Luke Skywalker. It was so weird. But it's cool to see different sides of a universe that have nothing to do with like the main part of it. I think that's what makes a universe feel real. I'm not super into Star Wars, but I think what's been holding me back is the sheer reliance on the things that I am already kind of not super interested in. So to see, you know, a different side of it would probably help a lot. That said, I'm not like stoked about it. You know, it's still a universe that I still am a little detached from. I would have to see this, and I would have to really get a sense for what this will actually end up being. I did like Detroit Become Human though, so from a gameplay perspective, I'm definitely on board. I guess it's just the Star Wars aspect that doesn't necessarily have me, you know, jumping for joy.
Yeah, it's unclear what the nature of this is as far as if it will end up in the final game, but these details come from a very reliable source. And I'll be interested to see more of what comes of this so-called Project S, whether this is just one vertical, like, because there's a few possibilities. It could be a vertical of the game. We know Quantic Dream games, so we know that they take place with different characters. So this Sarah and Zendo in this case could be one of those sets of whatever that's happening. It could be something that's just being written to pitch the game or get it out there or get something off the ground. Or it could be the entire plot, for all we know, surrounding these two characters. I have no idea. But pretty exciting stuff. I'm not so involved in Star Wars at all anymore to know much more. about how to, I went to Wikipedia, I looked these guys up, I just couldn't find anything more than that. So